Just pain. Time and pain.
And we are back for another episode of Dead Last Cycling. Today is day 200 of my cycling adventure, and to mark the occasion, I'm doing an FTP test. I expect most people will know what that means, but for the uninitiated, FTP stands for Functional Threshold Power. In simple terms, it's basically the maximum amount of power you can hold for a very long and very painful effort. I first took an FTP test when I first started cycling and riding on Zwift in October last year. So if we call that test day 1, since apart from it I'd only done 1 or 2 rides outside, today is day 200. On day 1, my FTP was an abysmal 164 watts, and at 83 kilograms, that was less than 2 watts per kilo, which is slow by anyone's definition. Now, it's probably worth mentioning that at that point, I was about as unfit as you can be, having spent many years doing no exercise whatsoever. After that test, I rode a bunch, mostly on Zwift and a little bit outside, and then after 100 days, I retested. That time, I got 232 watts, and with my weight down to 77.4 kilograms, it was a pretty massive increase to just shy of 3 watts per kilo. I'm really not sure what to expect out of today's test. In the last 100 days, I've ridden a fair amount, split between some easy rides, some interval work, and probably a little bit too much Zwift racing. I'm now down to around 75 kilograms, and hopefully, along with the weight loss, my legs will have gotten a little bit stronger too. In terms of how I'm going to be testing my FTP, I'm going to be doing the 20-minute test today for a couple of reasons. The first reason, I did the 20-minute test on day 1 and on day 100, and I want to keep consistency between all of my tests. The second reason, and this might be controversial, but I don't think the ramp test is very good. For a lot of people, especially those with a good anaerobic capacity, the ramp test can give overinflated results. And the thing about an FTP test is, it's not to stroke your ego, it's to set your training zones. So if the protocol you use gives an overinflated result, your training zones will be overinflated and your training will be impacted as a result. But look, enough waffle, let's get into the suffering.
All right, here we go, guys. 20 minutes of agony. Try to start off around 260. It's ambitious, but...
My target for the first 5 to 10 minutes of this test was somewhere between 260 to 265 watts. An ambitious start considering that for the last month I've really not been doing any threshold training, but potentially achievable provided I could settle in.
Find a nice rhythm and just hold it for a while. Keep the watts stable. They're going to jump around a bit, is what it is.
Finding a nice rhythm is the name of the game, and getting a comfortable gear to spin, at least for me, can be challenging, but I settled in with a reasonable cadence in gear 13. My power was a bit higher than I was planning to go out at, but not massively so. Very quickly though, I was questioning why I decided to keep my jersey on for the actual test.
This jersey might have to come off.
Gradually, over the next few minutes, I corrected my error.
Jersey's got to go. Away she goes. Need more cooling.
Now I was more sensibly dressed, I needed to buckle down. I'd started well, but my heart rate was higher than I would have liked. My threshold heart rate is somewhere around 171 to 173, maybe 174, so I was already bouncing off the limit with 15 minutes of the test left. Not good.
Might have gone off too hard here, guys. Gotta control this middle section. Left quad is screaming already.
One of the knocks you'll see against using the 20-minute test is that it can be difficult to pace, especially for a beginner like I realistically still am, and with only 6 minutes gone, I was already suffering. I had been hoping to start out in the low to mid 260s and then potentially build in the second half of the test towards the 270s. That didn't look like it was going to happen today, so to ensure I didn't blow up, I made the decision to keep this middle section controlled and maybe even fade my power target slightly. Time was passing extremely slowly, but it was still passing, and I got to 13 minutes, still averaging 264 watts, and still averaging the same at 12 minutes.
God, this hurts.
I was still maintaining good power, but I was fading slightly, and my average had ticked down to 263 by the time we hit 11 minutes.
Left quad giving me real problems.
My left quad has been an intermittently recurring problem for me during hard efforts, and I'm not sure if it's just because it's weaker or because of power delivery imbalances due to some nerve compression I've got in my spine, but in today's test it was screaming, whilst the rest of me felt further from the limit. Because of this issue, I was really struggling to spin comfortably in gear 13, but it felt like gear 12 would have asked me to spin too fast. This was now looking like, instead of the negative split I had hoped for, that we'd have to positive split and just hang on for dear life.
Every minute from here is 10%.
Whatever you need to do to make the time seem manageable, and for me, breaking it down into sections keeps me going, and despite fading slightly, I was still able to keep ticking off minute after minute. I got to 8 minutes with 262 watts averaged. By 7, I dropped 1 more watt to 261.
Could do with gear 12 and a half.
With just over a quarter of the test left, I was really hurting.
I don't know if I can do this.
Right then, 5 minutes felt like it was going to last an absolute eternity, and this is easily one of the closest I've come to cracking and throwing in the towel in the last 200 days. And if it wasn't for the fact that you guys keep me accountable, I might have folded here, but I couldn't. I had to hold on, even if it felt impossible.
I'm dying, guys.
My power was seriously fading, and my average had dropped from 265 all the way down to 260. Somehow, I had to find a way to finish, so I switched down to gear 12 and forced out as much cadence as I could. 4 minutes became 3 minutes, and then 3 minutes became 2 minutes. My average had slipped to 259, but I was finishing. There was no way I was going to blow up now. I know that no matter how much I'm hurting, I can turn myself inside out for a good 90 seconds, so I set about getting back some of those lost watts. By 90 seconds, 259 had ticked back up to 260, and by 30 seconds, we were back to 261. I wanted 262.
Oh my God.
249 watts. I have to be honest, initially I was a bit disappointed, and I do think I probably have a few more watts in me, perhaps with slightly different pacing or just being on a better day. But the thing is, you're not always on your best day, and the point of the test was to get a measure of progress. From day 1 to now, I've added 85 watts to my FTP, and my watts per kilogram has gone from 1.97 to 3.32, which is huge. The improvements from day 100 aren't as big, but progress is always going to slow down, and I've still added 17 watts, with my watts per kilogram growing up over 10% in the last 100 days.
Not going to do this at day 300. We're back to mark a year in 165 days. The goal, I'm setting it now, the goal for a year is plus 100 FTP in the first year. That's the goal. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you can like, comment, or subscribe, I'd appreciate it. and I'll see you next time.